Today we're going to talk about the possibility and look at evidence that points to there being a plunge protection team that's possibly controlled by the president, which could give us an indicator of what's going to happen with the stock market. We're also going to get into the tax revolts that we're seeing over in France and try to get a gauge on if that may be coming to the USA. And we're going to look at some unusual comments out of the former Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen. And it's interesting what she has to say, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into it here. Everybody, hey, it's Jason here from Bull Boom Bear Bust. Thank you for joining me. Okay, now I want to try to dispel some rumors and myths, right, and some back and forth that I've been seeing on social media. Okay, so people have been saying in comments on different YouTube channels and different places that there's a plunge protection team. Absolutely, 100%. It's proven. Other people say no, it's conspiracy theory. All right, so first let's look at the price action, right? So we see big drops and then recoveries, and we've seen that here for past week or so, and we've seen it on a larger scale. If we go out to 6 months, we've seen big drops, recoveries, big drops, recoveries. Year to date, we're still negative, all right, compared to where we started. We're starting at 24,824. Now we're down in the lower 24s, but overall not really a big drop. A lot of volatility, though. All right, so that's got the talk basically stirred up about the plunge protection team again. All right, so first of all, is there a plunge protection team? Because some people say the whole thing is just a complete conspiracy theory. There's no such thing as a government entity or president demanded group that manipulates stock prices. So let's go to this clip from CNBC and listen closely, because they're going to even acknowledge that they usually don't talk about this on TV. It's usually been kind of a taboo subject, especially for mainstream media. Okay, so here we go.
850. Twice we've had the president's working group, sometimes known as the plunge protection team, step in when it looked like things might get worse. That happened on October 10th and October 28th. Both of those rallies, nearly 100 points in the S&P. They are completely the product of the president's working group.
Hey, Scott, hold on, Scott. Hold on. You're saying the government stepped in and bought S&Ps in the market?
I am saying that the market action on those 2 days and one or two others has all the hallmarks of the plunge protection team at work.
I've heard this before, but you're the first one to say it on TV here. Give us what you're looking.
Okay, so that was just a clip that kind of showed you the gist of how rare it is for that to be acknowledged on TV. But in the alternative media world, it's pretty well known. For example, there's even whistleblowers, right, such as this interview with here Dr. Pippa Malmgren. Okay, a very long interview, but she was basically a member of the U.S. President's Working Group on Financial Markets, aka Plunge Protection Team. And she goes into a lot of detail about what she had to do, what their duties were. Okay, so we're going to link to that as well. Okay, there's been articles put out saying that the conspiracy theories are wrong about the Plunge Protection Team, and going so far as to say there's not even a plunge protection team at all, in various pieces basically coming out and trying to debunk the whole theory of a protection team. All right, and this is a professionaladvisor.com article right here. And one of the things they talk about, or the common thing they talk about in a lot of these articles, they say, well, if there was a plunge protection team, why are there ever market crashes? Why wouldn't the president just direct the stock market to go up and up and up and never come down? Well, think about that. Do you think that the presidents, who normally are basically just puppets, do you think they're going to really want to keep the market going up forever? So, of course they wouldn't, right? It's a wealth transfer game. The whole goal is to try to transfer the wealth from the poor and the middle class up to the upper levels. And a great way to do that is to crash the markets, right? Let the professionals come in and buy for ultra cheap prices, and they can consolidate more and more wealth, more and more power, more and more control. Okay, there's also people out there trying to disprove that the Fed has their own trading desk. Okay, but here's the thing. Unless you are at the Fed or know somebody leaking valid information out of the Fed, there's no way to prove it one way or another, right? So there's been different politicians along the way here that wanted to audit the Fed, right, and see what they've been up to. Here is an article here out of thehill.com, right? So going back to people like Ron Paul, and even the current administration, there's been talk of auditing the Fed and opening up their books. But otherwise, they're a ultra secretive group, right? They can't be audited. We can't look exactly into the books and see what they've been doing. So anybody that tells you or claims to know what the Fed does or doesn't do, they're also just pushing theories, right? Because there's no way to know exactly without a full audit of the Fed. So the ones saying that this is a conspiracy theory, actually they are the conspiracy theorists, because all they have is theories as well, because they cannot see exactly what's going on any better than you and I, right? Unless, of course, they're an insider. And I can tell you something for sure. The current administration, they are not revealing a whole lot of information that's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of things happening that's not being reported on mainstream media. Right, and we've talked about it here. These are globalist, multinational media corporations. They don't have our best interests at heart. Right? And I'm not saying that the current administration does, but I am saying that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. Okay, so yes, there is a plunge protection team. Now, what we don't know is the exact operation, right? We don't know if the president's in there telling them exactly when to buy the stocks and bring the market back up. Okay, all we have is theories out of both sides. But one of the theories is that the president has control now over the Fed and therefore the plunge protection team, and we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so let's say the president is in direct control of the stock market, meaning he can come in and direct the buying of these stocks to bring the market back up after a drop. So then people ask, well, why wouldn't he just take the Dow Jones to 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 and make himself look wonderful? Well, think about it. If he does that, then he's enriching the same companies and the same CEOs that are buying back their own stocks and selling their own stocks. We know how many insiders have been selling recently. So he would be basically enriching the same executives and CEOs that are outsourcing jobs, that aren't giving raises, that are keeping wages stagnant, right? That are closing factories down and laying people off, right? So there's a lot of stuff to think about. It's not as simple as saying, yes, the president is going to take the stock market to new highs or he's going to let it crash. Right, there's a whole lot there to try to decipher and see what's going on. So what I do in a case of uncertainty like we're seeing is I stay out of the stock market, and I've said it before. I might do some trades here and some ETFs here, but I'm not going net long in any manner as far as investing in stocks go. All right, and maybe I'm missing out. Maybe it will keep going. Maybe we'll see the Dow at 30,000. All right, there's no way to know. Just letting you know what I'm doing. All right, and I would call that a safety play in a time of uncertainty, which we're definitely at now. And we're due for another recession. It's every 8 or 10 years on average. We're now in one of the longest bull markets we've seen, going on 10 years now. Okay, since the quote-unquote recovery after the financial crisis about 10 years ago. Okay, so let's go to this article right here. And we're going to go over to Paris, and I'm sure most of you have seen the riots and the thousands and thousands of police and basically a martial law scene in Paris. And it's being reported that this whole thing is over a 25-cent per gallon gas tax. Now, while that gas tax may be the straw that broke the camel's back, okay, what we're seeing here is that these riots are really about a long-term financial oppression of the people. So what Macron has been doing, and that's that is the French president, Emmanuel Macron. And if you remember the Paris Climate Agreement that Trump actually backed out of and took a lot of heat for doing that, basically saying he was going to cause the globe to fall to pieces because of climate change. Okay, so it's being reported here out of ABC that Macron has scrapped that gas tax. All right, but let's go over to RT here because it's more than just this recent 25-cent per gallon gas tax. There have been basically mega taxes in France for a very, very long time. And we see the tax revenue here compared to other countries. All right, and this is taxed as a percentage of GDP, and we see France as the #1 country. So basically the highest taxes when it comes to the size of their economy. So this is not just about these recent gas taxes. This has been building up for a long, long time. Okay, we look down here, we see the U.S. basically on the lower end. So even though we have some pretty high taxes here, in my opinion. Okay, and this is just out of the 34 countries that are in this here, this OECD. And that stands for the Organization of Economic Coordination and Development. Or rather for economic cooperation, not coordination. Either way. All right, so when it comes to taxes, I mean, how many times do taxes actually go down? It's rare that you see a tax cut. And this whole broad agenda is to increase taxes. And I don't think we should be taxed for a global climate agenda. So they're trying to say that having people like you and I and middle class people and the working class, having us pay extra taxes is going to somehow fight climate change or global warming. And basically what we see going on right now to a broader scale is, and this is here in the United States, is we have one side that wants more multinational control over the United States' decisions and policies. And then we have the administration that's America first. We don't want to be dictated by an outside group like the UN or these multinational organizations, for example. Right? So a lot of divisive things happening right now in the political spectrum. You know, some people say we need a wall. Other people say, no, we don't need any borders. We shouldn't even have, you know, a sovereign an individual country, right? Okay, now my personal opinion on it is I think we should have secure borders. I think we should have our own sovereign country and our own laws, right? We don't need to be subject to some global mandates. And the way I look at it is that sovereignty and having borders, that is basically a bulkhead, right? A bulkhead to protect you from, all right, let's say you get a dictator that's in control of the globe. At least now you have some protection, right, from such a dictator taking over, right? So if you think Trump is scary, imagine being subject to some of the laws in the Middle East, for example, like some countries where women can't even drive automobiles. All right, or let's say we started being more like Mexico, where drug cartels just basically rule everybody. So I don't think we should do that. I don't think we should open ourselves up to some multinational or foreign set of rules and laws. Okay, not that we're perfect. There's a lot of problems here in the United States that we need to fix. But before we invite unlimited populations from other countries, we have a lot of problems here we need to fix first, right? We have our own homeless population that's basically exploding. And what's going to happen if you invite, you know, millions and millions of more poor people into the country? Do you think that's going to help homelessness? Do you think that's going to make it even harder, considering the housing shortage that we've seen here? All right, so a lot to think about there. So will we see tax riots here in the U.S.? I don't think so, because the current president's basically more about cutting taxes. But I think we could see some riots and some social unrest due to some other things that we're going to see coming up here in the political world again. And it's a very divided country right now, so I would be prepared. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do that preparation video that I did a few videos back, because of the social unrest that we're going to be seeing here in this country. And if I had to put a date on it, I'd say in the next year or sooner, because a lot of things are coming to a boiling point right now. Okay, I don't think it's going to be a civil war, because I think it's going to be contained by the military, maybe similar to what we saw over there in Paris. All right, but hopefully not that insane, but we'll see. Okay, so bottom line, be prepared. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here with some warnings out of the former head of the Fed there, and that's Janet Yellen. And it's interesting to see how different they speak after they leave the Fed, right? So when Janet was in there, Miss Yellen was saying how everything was great, how we see strong growth, right? It's okay to raise interest rates, no problem. Okay, now when she's out, here's her quote here, gigantic holes in the system. So, isn't that strange, Miss Yellen? So just a couple years ago when you were in, everything was great, no problems on the horizon. Now in just a couple short years, gigantic holes in the system. All right, so what's this about? Let's take a look here. Okay, she's also talking about a potential financial crisis. Oh my goodness. All right, so let me get this straight. So under the Fed's watch, we've had a Great Depression. We've had multiple crashes in the economy. Okay, a financial crisis only 10 years ago. But yet we're supposed to believe and listen to these Fed heads, talking heads basically, right, telling us who or what is to blame for this financial crisis. So basically she's blaming the current administration. She's saying it's all their fault. Even the new Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, she mentioned him. All right, remember, and this is the Fed that before the housing bust said that there were no bubbles in the economy, that everything was fine. All right, so I recommend just being ultra careful, ultra cautious. Okay, don't believe anything that any one person says, including myself. You know, go out and research this information for yourself. If you want to check in more of the information that we talked about, just look down in the description here for this video, and you're going to see links to all these articles, or rather a link to a website that has links to all these articles. That's the Bull Boom Bear Bust site. And give me a thumbs up if you like what we talk about here. And let me know what you think down in comments. And hope to see everybody next time. Bye now.